Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Vegas 44, Rob Font versus Jose Aldo, and Shaq is going down this Saturday night at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got a bantamweight main event with title implications on the line. The one of the GOAT featherweights, Jose Aldo, he's dropping a bantamweight. He's looking to get another belt in another weight class. This guy's been at the top of the heap for over a decade, but Rob Font, I mean, we've been waiting for this kid to put it together, and Shaq, this 4-fight win streak, if that's any indication, this is the best version of Rob Font we've ever seen.
Rob Font's been looking very good lately. He's beaten former world champions. I mean, he's finishing guys. I mean, we know he's got the skills. We just wanted him to put it all together. Turns out he might be the best one from that gym. It's looking like it these days. But and Jose Aldo, I mean, that's a legend of the sport, a future UFC Hall of Famer, guaranteed. I mean, I don't think I've ever missed a Jose Aldo fight, so I doubt you have either. So, Jose Aldo, every time he's in the octagon, it's a spectacle. I mean, that's one of the true legends of the sport. So you got to watch. And if Rob Font beats Jose Aldo, you know what that happens. I mean, it's title shot time. So Peter Yan needs a lot more, challengers. After, this next one, we need more guys. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and with Rob Font, I mean, look, the skills have always been there, man. I mean, the guy's had hands since day one, but now I think the mental is starting to catch up. Now I think he's ready for those big fights. You know, I don't think that you can sit here and say Rob Font chokes in big fights anymore. He's coming off a main event win over a former champion. He beat Bellator's bantamweight champion Sergio Pettis as well in that current win streak. And I mean, obviously the jab, is completely on point. The cardio, the follow-up with the straight right. But then Jose Aldo, I mean, you're dealing with a guy that when you've accomplished what Jose Aldo's accomplished, I mean, what's there left to do? And this guy is still finding new ways to improve. He's still beating guys in the top 10. He still believes he could be a world champion. He truly believes it. So this fight's going to give us a lot of answers.
Yeah, Jose is the type of guy, he just puts his head down and he works. He doesn't, feel entitled about things or anything. He's like, I got to just beat these guys one by one and, whatever happens, happens. And, I think the day he retires, they got to put him in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I mean, I think it goes without saying that Jose Aldo is a future Hall of Famer. No questions asked, no debates about that. So we're going to break down the whole card start to finish. Look forward to doing that. But first, before we do, got to give a shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks. So guys, PrizePicks is the easiest way to make money on daily fantasy sports. On these other outlets, you got to compete with thousands of stats nerds and pray that you have that optimal lineup. Here, it's completely different. It's literally just you versus PrizePicks projections. So you look at their projections and you can combine multi-sports if you want. Take advantage of the spots that you think they're wrong on. Now, all of our users, you guys are going to receive an 100% instant deposit match up to $100 by using the code BATTLE at PrizePicks. You can go to prizepicks.com or download the app. It's the simplest fantasy game on the market. You pick 2 to 5 players from any sport. It can be the same sport or different sports, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. And like I said, no sharks, no optimizers, no mass multi-entry. You don't have to throw in 150 lineups and pray to God that you get that one right. I mean, just come out here, take advantage of their projections that you disagree with. Like I said, they allow mixed sports entries. So, you guys know how I've been telling you to take that over on Max Holloway. Well, that came through. Take that under on Patrick Mahomes. I mean, every single week it changes. PrizePicks has a 4.8 star rating in the App Store with great reviews. So, guys, make sure you'll go to PrizePicks. Use that code BATTLE for an 100% deposit match up to $100. It's the best and easiest way to win at daily fantasy sports. That's PrizePicks. Now, Shaq, let's break down this whole card start to finish, because first up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Louis Smolka, he's 17-7, taking on Vince Morales, who is 10-5. And currently, they got Louis Smolka minus 150. The comeback on Vince Morales is plus 130. Shaq, by this time, Louis Smolka, he's a seasoned vet, man. I mean, this guy's been in there for a very, very long time. His scrambling ability is top notch. I mean, he's extremely exciting to watch. And if you're not quite ready for Louis Smolka's ready, I mean, he's going to get for Louis Smolka's level. He's going to get on top of you. He's going to ground and pound you. He's going to submit you. He's going to beat you on scrambles. But this kid, Vince Morales, I mean, I got to tell you what. I haven't ever been that impressed with him, but for a guy that started off fighting the Song Yadongs, I mean, he's still in the UFC today. He's starting to get some wins here and there. Do you think he has enough momentum behind him to beat an established vet like Smolka?
Yeah, Vince Morales, like you said, I've never been that impressed. Kind of been struggling to see if he's UFC level, and that's not just because he's losing a Song or Gutierrez or whoever else he lost to, Benito Lopez. I know a lot of people think that was a robbery, but man, I just feel like he's a basic fighter. He just throws right hand, right hand. Even his wins, like against a hobby, I mean, that fight was, shit.
Or the Draco.
The Draco Rodriguez fight. I mean, Draco, I don't know if y'all seen what happened to that kid. I don't know what happened to that guy, but yeah, I mean, but look, one thing about Vince, he's durable. He's tough. He will unless his leg is broken. I mean, he will hang in there for 3 rounds. Smolka is the type of guy that kind of like a comeback fighter in a sense. I mean, he'll get beat up, he'll get wailed on for it. Even like his last fight against Teco Quinones. I mean, a lot of his fights he kind of starts slow, but I mean, thing with Smolka, he's got that intangible, like when he senses his opponent is fatiguing or showing any sign of weakness, he will turn up and he will get things ugly in there. But as far as this fight goes, man, I just personally don't like money on guys like Vince Morales. I just think he throws right hand over and over again, not much setups. And Smolka, playing him at these chalk prices, I just prefer him as like an underdog type of fighter, laying chalk on him. Cause Smolka's kind of like one of these guys you kind of worry, like, does he care? Cause like, I mean, when's the last time he fought firstly? Like, it's been a while.
Against Teco.
Yeah, that was a while ago, right? Like that was, it seems like he's been having some stuff. And I even like when he was, a year ago. Yeah, a year ago. But like, I remember like a while ago, like he was eating like Chick-fil-A and like Chinese food on his YouTube channel. But hey, I'm gonna pick him for the win here. It's gonna be a tough fight. Vince is tough. He's got a lot of heart, but I think Smolka just has a little bit more tools, especially on the ground. I think if he can get it to the ground, I think he can kind of run away with this fight. So I'm gonna go with Smolka to win.
You want to know an interesting fact that aged kind of funny? Louis Smolka closed minus 500 against Brandon Moreno.
Yeah, well, nobody. Brandon Moreno was like a 16 seed.
And it was his UFC debut. And he had lost on the Ultimate Fighter. But still, it's looking back at it. I mean, if you would have got those kind of dog odds on Brandon Moreno against Louis Smolka at any other point. But yeah, so I mean, look, Louis Smolka's paid his dues, man. His scrambling ability is extremely fun to watch. The guy is durable. He can take a shot, man. I mean, I've seen this guy knock down multiple times in fights and still not go out. So yeah, I mean, this kid Smolka, he's Hawaiian, so when you think his chin should go, wait 10 more fights and then it'll finally go. I mean, this guy is just tough as nails, and I feel like, we talk so much about his scrambling, and not that his stand-up is, Chris Gutierrez or some of these top guys in the division, but I think it's slept on from time to time, man. I think he's got a little sneaky power. I think that he's long for the weight class. With Vince Morales, obviously, about his right hand. Dropped Domingo Pilarte, which a lot of people have done. However, he still did it. And I mean, he was standing and banging with Song for 3 rounds. I mean, it didn't go his way, but still, man, I mean, he's a tough kid. It's just, I'm curious, like, Smolka's got an insane chin, man. I think Smolka can take these shots. It's just about, can, Vince land that knockdown, steal the round that way? Because I think if Smolka gets on top of Vince and he starts to posture up, that's when the ground and pound comes. That's when possibly Vince gives up his back and gets submitted. So I'm going to go with Smolka to get this done. I do agree with you about it can be sketched to back him as a favorite, but I got to say he does have a decent history as the favorite. I mean, came through against Sumadarji. Obviously, that kid, main event McDonald, the one most recently, Teco Quinones. So usually when he's like a slight favorite, he tends to win. So let's see if the bookies are right. I'm going to go with Louis Smolka to get it done. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Alex Morono, who's 20-7. He's taking on Mickey Gall, who is 7-3. And currently, they got Alex Morono minus 230. The comeback on Mickey Gall's plus 190. I mean, I got to give Mickey Gall credit. He's come a long way for a guy that, fought CM Punk and Mike Jackson And then all of a sudden he's fighting Randy Brown. He's fighting Randy Brown, Diego Sanchez, like all these like guys that are established. You know, he grew up inside the octagon, but now he's got another tough test. So, I mean, here's the question. Look, Morono, he's a solid top 25 guy, man. I mean, if you're not quite ready for Morono, you will get exposed against Morono. So has Mickey Gall leveled up enough to pass another veteran test?
Man, this is a tough fight because Morono is a seasoned vet. I mean, he's been in there with Price. He's been in there with Chaos. Did go to sleep in those fights, but he's been in there. The last fight against the German guy, what's his name, Zawada. I mean, he beat that dude up pretty good. I feel like Morono sometimes doesn't get enough credit. I know he's had his stumbles, and his issue has always been the chin. And if he gets caught, maybe a little bit of the takedown defense. But I feel like he's cleaned that up quite a bit, actually, since that was a problem. I don't see him going to his back as much. Mickey, on the other hand, I do think that he's grown a lot. I mean, in that Mike Perry fight, that was a great display of heart. I mean, he was hurt badly in that fight. I mean, and he hung in there for 15 minutes. And, that's kind of been a thing. You remember the Diego Sanchez fight? I know he said he had some health problems going on, but the Randy Brown fight, there were times where he was literally turning his back and running. And yeah, Jordan Williams might not be UFC caliber, but I mean, he treated him like he wasn't UFC caliber, man. Like I was very impressed. I was like, I know he's been staying at Matt Brown's house. He's been drinking Matt Brown milkshakes. He's been, doing the whole that gym that Matt Brown chains at. What's it called? I'm talking
Western
about.
Barbell.
Yeah, that one. I know he's shadowing Matt Brown. Maybe the kid is growing up. I gotta go with Morono still, but from a betting side of things, I'm a little bit worried about the price, just because I feel like there's been lesser lines for better fighters. Like Randy Brown, for example. I think when I bet him on that one, I feel like Randy Brown was like minus 175, minus one, somewhere in that range. And Morono, Morono will go to sleep sometimes, man, when you least expect it. But we're talking about Chaos Williams, Nico Price, guys with an extensive history of putting people to sleep. Jordan Williams, I just think it was more of a case of, he's dropping a weight class. He overextends. It happened in the fight with that kid too.
Ian Gary.
So, I'm going to go with Morono, but from a betting side of things, I'm going to be a little cautious just because Mickey is in the best form of his career, man. I mean, I was seeing clips of Matt Brown literally like kicking this dude around the gym. I think he's been getting tougher. Like, he's trying to face that problem head on. So props to Mickey Gall. I've been saying I think he's a real fighter now. But I just think Morono's kind of better everywhere, just slightly, not saying that Mickey can have his opportunities, but I just think Morono hits a little harder. He's been making decent decisions on the grappling side of things. So I'm going to take him for the win here, but a closer decision than you might think,
Yeah, I mean, look, Morono's got close to 3 times the amount of pro fights as Mickey Gall, and you got to respect Mickey Gall. Like I said, for a guy that was fighting CM Punk and Mike Jackson, then all of a sudden you're fighting Randy Brown. I mean, you got to give him a lot of credit. He's stepping in there. He doesn't turn on fights. I mean, he was scheduled to fight Baeza. Didn't Baeza pull out of that fight, or am I Mickey pulled? Well, still, I mean, I think he would have showed up if he could have. I mean, Mickey's a tough kid. I mean, he's got decent pop in his hands. The jiu-jitsu ain't bad offensively. It's just, there's certain things about Mickey Gall still getting a little bit more comfortable in the stand-up compared to what it was. I mean, at least he's not closing his eyes and running away anymore, but it's still, I don't think it's quite at that, top 30 level like Alex Morono is. And even though there are some things you got to be concerned about, whether it's Alex Morono, he comes out hard. And when I say he comes out hard, I mean, as soon as the bell rings, he runs across to his opponent and just throws. I mean, this guy loves to bang. So there is a chance that Morono can get caught. But if that doesn't happen, I just think more often than not, Morono is just a more seasoned guy here than Mickey Gall, is better across the board, can beat him up standing, can avoid the attacks on the mat. I mean, we're also dealing with a black belt in Morono. Let's not forget that. So even if he does give up a takedown, I think he can get back up. And then on the feet, it's just about, I think Morono is going to be winning in terms of the volume, in terms of landing the harder shots. It's just about not getting dropped, not getting wobbled, not letting Mickey get any kind of momentum. So give me Morono here. But I mean, this is one of the most positive I've ever been on Mickey Gall. I mean, I do think the guy is improving. I realized he fought Jordan Williams, who is a completely different man at 70 than he is at 85.
It's like because I think Nasruddin might have took everything out or something happened. Like the last 2 fights, he looked bad, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Oh, you think Nasruddin took a little something from him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because, I mean, like the RoboCop fight, Jordan Williams knocked him out. The fight against the Russian that Rob fought, I mean, that like
you're talking about Ramazan
Magomedov. Yeah. So, but then all of a sudden he drops to 70, and it's not just the 2 UFC L's. You see what Dwight Grant did to him? Dwight Grant launched him in the 10th row. So, yeah, Jordan Williams he can't take a shot at 170, but still, Mickey Gall handled him like he can't take a shot at 170. So, I like the improvements from Gall. Still don't quite think he's ready for Morono yet. Now, next up in the heavyweight division, and this is interesting, Shaq. We got a matchup between the newcomer Azamat Murzakanov. He's 10-0. He's taking on Jared Vanderaa, who is 12-6. Currently, they got Azamat Murzakanov minus 200. They come back on Jared Vanderaa plus 170. Okay, this is why this is interesting. Azamat Murzakanov, firstly, looking forward to this debut. This guy is Russian. He's undefeated. Knocked out Andre Muniz on his regional scene, goes to Contender Series, destroys his opponent there. Here's the thing, guys. We were already saying he's kind of small for 205, but he's a badass Russian, and he's fast as hell, and he's well-rounded, so he can probably win a few fights, but it'd be ideal for him to drop to middleweight. Well, now he was actually supposed to welcome Philippe Lins back to 205. Philippe Lins pulls out the fight, which he is known for.
They might need to go ahead.
And then Jared Vanderaa steps up. Here's the catch. It's at heavyweight. So on one hand, you can look at it as, hey, Azamat doesn't have to cut that weight. You can just walk in at your normal walking weight. You're good to go. On the other hand, I mean, there's weight classes for a reason. We're dealing with a middleweight versus a Russian. Excuse me. We're dealing with a middleweight versus a heavyweight. And this middleweight happens to be a lot more skilled than the heavyweight.
How many fights does he have at middleweight?
Azamat, I think he never wanted to cut weight. I think because he's like he's 5'10".
So he's never fought at middleweight.
Let's see.
Guida and Ascension, former UFC heavyweight.
All right, so let's see. Yeah, my dude's out here fighting open weight fights.
So he's a light heavyweight.
So all his fights have been at light heavyweight, but Dana said he wanted to see him at middleweight. But now he's moving up to heavyweight. So, I mean, look, heavyweights hit hard, and if Azamat isn't quite on his game, Vanderaa, I mean, he can crack, man. I mean, he's a big boy. He's going to come in 265 pounds. So, and another scenario where Azamat could possibly lose is Azamat could be working Vanderaa, could be pushing him up against the fence, could be landing takedowns, and he could gas for moving that big body around, and then down the stretch, Vanderaa could take over and get a comeback. So those are the spots that I'm worried about with the size difference, but skill for skill, Azamat is better than Jared Vanderaa. His hands are a lot faster. He's tricky. He's a southpaw. He's experienced on the regional scene. He can mix in his takedowns. And we've seen with Jared Vanderaa, he might stuff the first initial takedowns, but once you get him down, it's hard for him to get back up. And he's been finished more than once on the mat, granted, by real heavyweights. But Azamat does have the skills, so I think he comes out here and gets this win. But maybe there's a couple sketchy moments due to the size, maybe a little gassing from moving said size. But give me Azamat to get it done.
Yeah, Jared, isn't his nickname the Mountain? I mean, he's a big boy, 265. How tall?
Yeah, 6'4",
6'4",
80-inch reach.
I mean, he's a big boy. Yeah, that's one thing I was, a little interested when I was watching these guys. I was like, man, he seems a lot bigger. But skill for skill, like Jared's kind of a punching bag. You can get him on the ground. I mean, do your thing there as well. He has one win over Tuivasa, where not Tuivasa, but Justin Tafa, and Tafa is very green, only like less than 10 fights. But when he fought King Kong, Romanov, who else did he fight? And Spivak. I mean, he got beat up, pretty good. And on the feet, man, he really doesn't have much to offer. I mean, he kind of just throws an outside leg kick. I mean, not really willing to engage. Even Romanov was trying to test his striking a little bit against him. I mean, the thing with Jared is he's tough. He's got heart. But yeah, as long as Azamat doesn't stay in the clinch with this guy too long or actually get taken down by him, I think he can snipe this guy from the outside rather easily. It's just, the weight is a big thing. But I feel like in times, with the Av and the Azamat, I think this line could even be wider. I don't think the line's like too crazy, to be honest. Like usually you get an Av versus Jared Vanderaa. I mean, what was Romanov like, minus 500?
Yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, this kid actually opened 300, but the action came in on Vanderaa
because they maybe if they do get him down, and maybe it is trouble. But I think Azamat snipes him from the outside. Like his feints, is that bouncing up and down style, like it's very hard to come across, especially at this high of a weight class. Like I don't think Jared's ever fought anybody like this. He's usually fighting big Ukrainian, Moldovan, grapplers. So I'm gonna go with Azamat to actually knock him out. Just snipe him from the outside. I mean, that combo he hit the guy with on Contender Series was pretty vicious. I heard he put Andre Muniz down pretty viciously too the first round. So I'm gonna go with Azamat. But even if it goes 3 rounds, I think he can land like the more prettier strikes, the more flashier strikes. Vanderaa kind of just is a big, big ogre type of dude, man. Just I don't know. I think he's tough, but I don't think skill wise he's there.
Yeah, I mean, look, speaking of going 3 rounds, Azamat did body former UFC heavyweight Guto Innocence for 3 straight rounds. I mean, was able to mix in the wrestling. So even though he does have a reputation for coming out there and knocking guys out early, he showed that he's got that back pocket to go in there, mix in, get those entries, take it to the mat if need be. So it's going to be interesting to see how this fight plays out, but I'm with you. I'm going to go with Azamat Murzakanov as well. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Claudio Puelles. He's 10-2. He's taking on Gruetzemacher, who is 15-4. And currently, they got Claudio Puelles minus 110, Gruetzemacher minus 110. Shaq, this was a couple of years ago. I mean, Gruetzemacher, I think for sure would, show that there's a difference in toughness in this fight. But Puelles is a guy that, I mean, moves to the States, is just a kid, is only 25. It's getting better every single fight. So I like what I'm seeing from him. Is he ready to pass this veteran test that Gruetzemacher is going to present to him?
Man, this is a tough fight because, man, Puelles from where he started. I mean, if you would have seen where he started at, like his Martin Bravo fight, I mean, you would line Grits probably about like minus 300 here. Like, man, it's a tough fight because I feel like Gruetzemacher is a guy that consistently gets slept on. I mean, even by me in the past, like a long time ago, Gruetzemacher fought Davi Ramos, like a 3rd-degree black belt. I mean, I'm thinking the fight. I mean, at the time, I thought Gruetzemacher was a straight can, I mean, a lot of people don't know, but Dana and them actually like took him off the Tough Show. Like, they were like, bro, you block punches with your face, man. And like Conor McGregor even said, I wouldn't recommend that fighting style to my worst enemy, because he was fighting Artem at the time. But Gruetzemacher, man, I feel like he's been subbed a couple times by is Chaz Skelly the number 1 submission guy out featherweight?
Yeah, top 2.
Top 2, 3, he got subbed by Chaz Skelly. Alexander Hernandez knocked him out, and Davi Ramos. But that's like 3, those are 3 solid guys right there. And but his other fights, man, look at his fight with Rafa Garcia. Rafa Garcia just proved that he's UFC caliber. And I mean, Grits damaged him, like broke his nose. Like Garcia was in pain, man, in that fight. And I think and I honestly think, like, man, he doesn't get enough credit. Look what he did to Joe Lozon in Madison Square Garden. I mean, to the point where Joe Lozon couldn't even get up off the stool. Now, I like Puelles' improvement, but like, this is what I would call, and this is just me being honest, like, I think he's, getting better 100%, but I still have not seen like This fight, his nose might get broke. Like this fight, his ribs are gonna get punched in. Like Gruetzemacher is very economical. He's very efficient. He knows what he's doing in there. Like you gotta listen to him after his last fight. He said, "Dude, like I train boxing. Like I know what I'm doing. Like he knows. He said he can shoulder roll with the best of them. So I think that Claudio Puelles, these fights with Jordan Levy. I mean, the jury's still out on kids like that. Jordan Levy, I mean, that fight was like that was a shit effort. I mean, that kid didn't even once his takedowns got stuffed. I mean, he kind of gave up. I mean, all he did was beat Matt Wyman, and they hyped him up to be this big prospect. But it was a solid win. Claudio exposed him 100%. But the fight with Anderson Silva's teammate, I mean, the Felipe Silva fight, that was a nice leg lock. He did show his heart there. So props to Claudio. We know he's improving, but I mean, he got beat up like for how long? Like the entire fight, and then, pulled up a leg lock. So I still have not seen enough to fully say that Claudio Puelles is ready for a dog fight with Chris Gruetzemacher, because Gruetzemacher is the type of guy where I've actually seen some of the most hellacious beatings. Like, there was one against Austin Springer. Austin Springer, who actually has a win over Giga Chikadze, a finish win over Giga Chikadze, man. And Gruetzemacher literally beat that dude up so bad that it got ugly. And I mean, it gets ugly.
Y'all got to rewatch that.
I mean, look what happened to Rafa Garcia. Nose twisted around to the other side. I'm not convinced that Claudio Puelles is going to be able to keep fighting at a high level if that happens to him. If his body is getting punched in, mixed in with the calf kicks. Like, this guy Grits knows what he's doing, man. I got to go with Grits here. I actually think he puts it on him. Like, I know Puelles does have a path with the takedowns. Grits gave up a bunch of takedowns to Garcia, but Garcia, man, is tough. Like, Garcia, look at that last fight with Levy, man. Levy will be back, but Garcia, like, showed that he's UFC caliber, man. If he can get takedowns in 2 of the rounds and actually hold him down. But when Grits wants to get up, I feel like he gets up. So I'm gonna go with Grits for a win here to kind of put it on him in the down the stretch last two rounds. Maybe loses the first round, but I think if this fight becomes a 50-50 fight of heart, Grits is running away with this.
Yeah, I mean, Grits is that guy that you hit him with your hardest shot and you keep hitting him over and over and you gas yourself out by hitting him, and then he's still there and he's still walking forward, and that has to discourage you. That has to drain your gas tank. That has to make you feel like, what do I got to do to get this guy out of there? I mean, look at Joe Lozon between rounds in their fight, and I think you are allowed to bring up fights like that because Claudio Puelles is, he's just a kid. I believe, what is he, only 25 years old now, Shaq? Let me double check real quick. He's only 25 years old. He was born in 96. He's just a kid. Now, granted, this kid, not only has he been getting better every single fight in terms of his skill set and feeling more comfortable inside the octagon, but he's physically maturing as well. I mean, if you watch that debut he had against Bravo, where, I mean, he looked like this ain't gonna pan out. And then you look at him now, I mean, he looks like a grown-ass man. So, I mean, he's growing into the weight class. I could see him actually ending his career at 170. So I feel like they've given him the right steps, and this is going to be a test for him, man, because Gruetzemacher isn't just gonna go out without a fight unless you're up at a different level. Alex Hernandez is a solid top 20 guy. Davi Hamosh is a top 50 guy. Claudio Puelles is slightly behind those guys, man. So with Claudio, I mean, I think obviously he needs to get the takedowns, keep that top control, and possibly look for a submission. I'm just not convinced he's on the level to be able to get that submission like a guy like Chas Kelly, like a guy like Davi Hamosh. I do think he can accumulate some top control, though. But the thing is, man, Chris Gruetzemacher, like we talked about, it's a false sense of security when you fight. I'm not talking about a Peter Yan type false sense. I'm not. That's not where I'm going. The false sense of security I'm talking about with Chris Gruetzemacher is more that, like I said, you hit him with that baseball bat, you hit him with that fire extinguisher, you literally empty out the clip, hitting him with everything, and then he's still there walking forward, and then he's swinging back at you, and then the calf kicks and the big hooks up top. He'll even mix in a takedown or two. So
I mean Gruetzemacher
is one of these guys that you do not want to sleep on him, especially if you're early into your career or if you're one of these later veterans like a Joe Lozon. So, but at the same time, Shaq, Puelles only being 25, training at Sanford MMA, you could be seeing leaps every single time. We are seeing leaps every time. It's just, is he ready right now? I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to go with Chris Gruetzemacher, but I am curious to see the progression of Puelles, because, I mean, from where he is now to where compared to where he started, it's night and day. But give me Chris Gruetzemacher to be the grittier, more aggressive guy in this fight. No, because this mic is connected.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Alonzo Menifield. He's 11-2, taking on William Knight, who is 10-2. And currently, they got Alonzo Menifield -140. The comeback on William Knight's +120. Shaq, this should be a hell of a fight. I mean, two guys.
A lot of beef, a lot of
I mean, I think the octagon might break when these two step in there. I mean, look, William Knight is just explosive beyond belief. He's shorter for the weight class, but boy, does he make up for it, man. I mean, this is a guy that can do like 10 backflips in a row. This is a guy, he's kind of got a little bit of that Derek the Black Beast Lewis quality, where you can take him down, you can lay on him, but out of nowhere, he's going to explode and he's going to knock you out. Hits like a truck, kicks like a mule. I mean, I think that William Knight's going to go far in the sport. It's just he is a little bit green at this current moment. And Alonzo Menifield, talk about a guy that's paid his dues, man. I mean, had a nice win streak, was undefeated, had to take a couple setbacks, bounced back from those setbacks. So I love the fact that, this guy's been paying his due. This guy's been paying his dues. This guy's been making his improvements. He's taking his licks like a man. He's come back. He put his hard hat on, and now he's back on a win streak. So one thing I know is this fight's going to be exciting, Shaq, but who do you give the edge to?
Yeah, this is a good fight. Man, I kind of differ a little bit on William Knight. I've been kind of questioning if, and I don't think he's that young, man. I think he's like mid-30s, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that true?
How old is he? Yeah.
Oh.
I think, man, he's got a lot of, definitely got a lot of heart and some good intangibles, but just technique wise, when you see short guys like that back and, leaning straight back, it just worries me. And I'm not no striking coach. You could tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, but sure. I just know I know tall guys have that problem because, they're tall, but when short guys do that, man, it worries me a lot. I feel like William Knight could possibly run into some trouble later on. I mean, look, when you think about it, he's only, in my opinion, he's beaten the two, bottom feeders at 205, Alexa Kamor and the other kid that Kamor knocked out.
The Water Buffalo?
Yeah, Water Buffalo that Kamor knocked out on Fabio, that he knocked out on Contender Series. So I like William Knight's fights. I think he's very exciting, but, I feel like Menifield has definitely, we're talking about a guy that actually knocked out Paul Craig. I think Menifield just had some growing to do, man. I know he let a lot of people down when he lost to Clark in OSP, but, Clark, had a lot more experience than him. And Menifield, we know his issue. He's that big muscle frame, can, drain his cardio, but he's trying. I see a guy that's trying to pace himself a lot better, like in that Ed Herman fight. And I do see an effort, and I think that Coach Shafe can, they can build off that, man, and keep getting better. But I just think he's got a higher ceiling. William Knight, he's a dog. But like I was saying in the past, like when he fought Tafon Don on the local scene, I mean, certain guys are gonna expose that chin up in the air and some of his grappling techniques. He kind of uses some low level things, but hey, he gets away, when he's fighting these guys, he can get away with it, because those guys aren't really ready for the UFC. As where I feel like Menifield pretty much all of his fights have been, all the opponents were good. I feel like he made a mistake taking that OSP fight. I was like, bro, you couldn't beat Devin Clark. Why are we fighting OSP, on short notice too? I think that was just, look, fighters have tough stretches in their career, man, but I think he's ready to bounce back. I actually think he comes out here and knocks William Knight out fairly early, man. I think that he capitalizes on some of the mistakes in the technique, and I think he puts him out, man. I think that he's, slowly building himself back up, and I think he comes out here and gets a finish this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, a finish on either side would be nice. And I agree. I'm going to go with Alonzo too, but I think I'm going to take him via decision here, man. I mean, William Knight is super durable. And also that Dao and Jung fight, I mean, it just showed that there's so much room to grow for William Knight. But I mean, I got to give him credit for a guy that got dominated, 30-25, whatever the scorecards were. I mean, he took his ass whooping like a man, I mean, he got back up, comes back the next fight, destroys his opponent, so at least his confidence is back. Like I said, this William Knight is unbelievably explosive, man. Hits like a truck. It's just, like I said, he's smaller for the weight class, 5'10", and like you were referring to, leaves that chin up in the air. And I mean, I'm not just worried about that for tall dudes. I'm worried about that for anybody on the weight class. If you leave that chin up in the air, that is an issue, especially with a hitter like Menifield. But he has been pacing himself better. I mean, he knows he had to work on that. Even, he still got tired that last fight, but, you saw how many strikes he landed compared to previous fights. So
Ed Herman's a vet.
Like people like to say Ed Herman's a walking zombie. Ed Herman's been in the UFC 10 plus years, man. I mean, put some respect on his motherfucking name.
Tough with Bisping, man.
Like real talk. So, I mean, I think Alonzo, look, both guys have hard leg kicks. Both guys have big punches. I think Alonzo can mix in a takedown or two, edge this one out, just show that he's slightly ahead of William Knight at this point. But I mean, again, with William Knight's power and explosiveness, he can end anyone's night, but give me Alonzo Menifield to win the decision here. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Malory Martin. She's 7-4. She's taking on Cheynanne Vlismas. Cheyanne Sells, who is 6-2. And currently they got Cheyanne, according to the odds, her name is Cheyanne Bays. I wonder what that name change has to do with. She's minus 180. The comeback on Malory Martin is plus 158. So I mean, listen, you got to show up for this paycheck, man. I mean, lawyers ain't cheap, Shaq. But that being said, you think Cheyanne can block out all the distractions and come out here and get this dub over a one-dimensional fighter in Malory Martin who only has a grappling edge here?
Yeah, I gotta go with buys here, man. I've never, man, I don't think Malory Martin sucks or anything like that. I think she's decent. It's just in these fights, I just see like, I don't want to, put her down or anything, but I just see a person that's very nervous in there. I see a person that's, look at the Hannah Cyphers, like, look, pretty much her whole career, she's been getting beat up. I mean, the Jandiroba fight, I mean, okay, well, excuse her for that short notice against a top 15 opponent. Okay, no problem. But then the Hannah Cyphers come back. I mean, she got NFC veteran Hannah Cyphers. I mean, she got, walloped around the cage. And I mean, that was bad. I mean, she, Hannah Cyphers isn't known for her jiu-jitsu, Daniel. So, she was able to get it down to the ground, but pretty much everybody subbed Hannah Cyphers, big whoop. And then I actually faded her against Polyana Viana. She was like a favorite. I was like, why is she a favorite? Like she, even her Invicta fight's just not impressed, man. Like, I think she's got a good technique, but I think it's more of a mental thing. I think it's more of a, an aggression thing that she lacks. As where I think Cheyanne does have aggression. I think Cheyanne is willing to stand and trade in the pocket. Even that last fight, like she was touching that Gloria, she was touching that girl up from the outside as well. With big shots. And then good instincts with the head kick, man. I mean, that's just something I don't see Malory Martin ever really doing. So I got to go with Cheyanne here. I think she's more aggressive. I honestly don't she's got a sub in the UFC, but I mean, Conejo, monster. And I mean, that's what she's known for. She's a good wrestler, man. Like she's got some good head and arm throws. I know Cheyanne was a big favorite and she let everyone down that night, but I honestly think Malory Martin was supposed to fight Conejo. Yeah, Cheyenne's filling in. But I honestly think Conejo would beat Malory as well. That's just me, but I'm gonna go with Cheyanne here. I just think she's more aggressive, willing to take more chances. I think she just lands the harder shots. I think she stays off the ground here as well. But I kind of feel like Martin kind of could be desperate. I think, she needs a good performance. Like I said, her pretty much entire career, UFC career, she's been getting beat up. But Cheynanne does have a lot of changes going on in the on the outside things. Sometimes these things could play a factor in these things, and maybe she has an off night. We'll see. But I'm gonna go with Cheynanne buys for the win.
Yeah, I mean, I heard Cheynanne trimmed a little bit of the fat, out of the circle she was in. So, maybe that helps her here, Shaq. But because I mean, you gotta surround yourself with positive people, right?
Yeah, you gotta look out for yourself and your career. I mean, we already know who the star was. I mean,
you mean the kid that fought Montel wasn't the star? So, basically, Malory Martin actually does have a path to victory here, and that path to victory is getting Cheynanne down to the mat and holding her down. I understand that Ruiz is a specialist with the head and arm throw and the headlock, but to keep someone there for 15 straight minutes in a UFC fight, and it was just one fight ago, that shows that I understand that Cheynanne has probably addressed it. She moved camps, she's getting better, but it's only been a few months since then. How much better can you truly get? So what I'm trying to say here is that Malory actually has a path to victory getting this down to the mat. That being said, I don't trust Malory Martin at all for the reasons Shaq mentioned. That, I mean, you look at her entire UFC run. Now, no shame in losing to Verna Jandiroba, but I mean, Verna Jandiroba mopped the floor with her. Hannah Cyphers had her wobbling all over the place. Pollyanna Viana, I mean, she was going full Charles Oliveira, going from sub to sub on her. So we've seen that Malory Martin can be ran through. Cheynanne Vlismas, one thing about her, she's super green. She's got a long way to go, but she's got that natural fighter instinct in her. She's got that volume. She can come out here, get aggressive, bite down on that mouthpiece, and really put it on Malory Martin. So all she's got to avoid here is getting taken down, getting held down, possibly getting submitted. She avoids that, and I think that Cheynanne is gonna be able to pay off all these bills. And honestly, man, get half this dude's net worth too. Yeah, Malory did make some changes. They're just not as televised as Cheyenne's for reasons that you and I know, but we'll be nice and not say them. But I'm gonna go Cheynanne Vlismas to be undefeated in the UFC as a Vlismas. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a match between Zhalgas Zhumagulov, he's 14-5, taking on Manel No Cap Kape, who is 16-6. And currently they got Manel Kape minus 260. The comeback on Zhalgas is plus 220. So the line definitely headed in Manel Kape's favor. No questions asked about that. But honestly, man, this might be a hot take because I know Manel Kape started his UFC career off 1-2, but I think this kid's special, man. I think this kid's dangerous. I actually think that this kid is gonna fight for a UFC title one day. Some dude said Shaq looks like Manel Kape's younger brother. I don't know what Manel Kape's younger brother looks like, but we'll take it.
He's saying like,
no, I know.
Hey, I want to be like Manel Kape one day. So shit.
Manel No Cap Kape.
Manel's been making a name for himself.
But look, let me say this: Manel Kape, you guys can quote me on this. I think he will fight for a flyweight title before it's all said and done. I think this guy has ridiculous speed. His movement is on point. His punching power. I know his fight IQ has been questioned at times, but it's more so that he's one of these guys that is always convinced that he's winning the fight no matter what he does. So sometimes he doesn't throw enough as he needs to. And then when he does throw, his shots are more impactful than his opponent. So sometimes the volume can be on the lower side. But I'm telling you, when this kid finally realizes, how to win at this level and how to, what the judges are looking for, and stop playing games. I think, dude, I'm telling you right now, Shaq, Manel Kape is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, if you just watch that second round of the Nicolau fight, I mean, some of the speed, some of the things that Manel Kape was throwing at him, I'm just like, God damn, like this dude is special. So you guys don't write Manel Kape off yet just because he, fought Pantoja and Nicolau in his first two fights, had tough fights with them. Some people even think he beat Nicolau, but the bottom line is I saw the talent, I saw the skills, and I think going forward it's going to translate to a guy that fights for a title. And with Zhumagulov, I mean, he's got my respect, man. I mean, look at the guys he beat on his regional scene. Look at the guys he's been fighting in the UFC.
Did he really beat them though?
I know. You know, a lot of those decisions were controversial, but still, like, to at least fight close with tough competition outside the UFC, he's got my respect. You know, solid striker, solid everywhere. My issue with Zhalgas is he's kind of small for the weight class. He can be bullied in there. He can be backed up. And when he feels the power of Manel Kape, he will be bullied. He will be backed up. So I'm not sure if Manel's going to knock him out or anything like that. And obviously you got to be worried about Manel not throwing and Zhalgas, you know, eking out a split decision, a weasel split. It would have to be a weasel split for Zhalgas to win this fight. But I got Manel Kape showing why he was that talented, hyped up prospect that everyone was talking about when he came into the UFC. I think he starts to put it together. I think he goes on a win streak. Give me Manel Kape to impress this weekend.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Manel Kape, man. I mean, he was right there with Pantoja, who's like up next for a title shot. He was right there with Nicolau, who's top 6-7 in the division. So, I mean, we know he's got the talent. He, you know, beat Ode Osborne, who I think has a great career ahead of him as well. And then Zhalgas, look, he's a good guy. I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, think he beat Halian. I mean, I don't see how, but I mean, he does have a knack of making people think that he won fights that he, you know, kind of really
he won the second round.
Yeah, you know. But look, man, he's got good tactics up his sleeve. He knows what he's doing. I just think that, you know, we still haven't seen enough. I mean, all he did was beat Jerome Rivera. Everybody runs through Jerome Rivera. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just the honest truth about it.
It's a quote, Eddie Alvarez. If you're in the UFC and you haven't figured out how to beat Jerome Rivera yet.
He initially said that about Anthony Pettis. Like, it was like, dude, if you can't beat Anthony Pettis, like,
he's like, if you're in the top 10, you haven't figured out how to beat Anthony Pettis yet.
But yeah, man, I'm going with Manel Kape here. I just think that, you know, the big key is like what you were saying about Zhalgas, always on the back foot. Zhalgas does not take the center. He does not move forward unless, you know, he has somebody hurt. But look, he's not going to be trying to get close to Manel Kape. He's going to be on that back foot. I think all Manel Kape has to do is, you know, watch his volume, like, you know, be careful, like, make sure you're, you know, right up to par with his, because we know that when we do land, he will feel it. And I just think that you know, Manel can eat Zhalgas's best shots, no problem. That's where I feel like when Zhalgas gets hit, he's going to be backing up more, and just his volume is going to be slowly deteriorating. So I'm going to go with Manel Kape to actually, I'm going to say finish him. Maybe he has to work for it a little bit. You know, Zhalgas is going to be on the outside of that cage, but I'm going to go with Manel Kape to knock him out.
Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a match between Jake Matthews, he's 17-5, taking on Jeremiah Wells, who is 9-2. And currently they got Jake Matthews minus, depends where you look, minus 185. The comeback on Jeremiah Wells is plus 150. This should be a very, you know, this should be the kind of fight that lets us know exactly where both these guys are, because with Jeremiah Wells, I gotta admit, I wasn't that impressed with his regional footage, but then again, took 2 years off, comes into the UFC. He's in the prime of his career. And man, I was blown away by that debut against Warlley Alves. Now, guys, I understand Warlley Alves is a flake, but when you really look at the history of Warlley Alves and guys that beat him, they usually have to go through shit in that first round. Then they take over when Warlley Alves gasses. Jeremiah Wells ran over Warlley Alves from the second the bell rang to the second that Warlley Alves was unconscious on the canvas, man. So Jeremiah Wells impressed me. And not only did he impress me by the fact that he handled Warlley like that, he impressed me in all aspects of the game. Look, I know the stand-up might not look the prettiest, but it's effective because look at the horsepower this guy's working with. You take it a step further. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I saw him get on top of Warlley. hold or tie Worley's hand behind his back, Dagestani handcuff, and start pounding on him. And I'm just telling you right now, a guy like Jake Matthews, look, he's been in the UFC for such a long time that we know exactly what he is. I don't give a shit that he's 26 and 27 and, oh, he's going to go into his prime. I think it's more of a case like DeCasey where his best days are actually behind him, man. I mean, Jake Matthews might have the physique. Jake Matthews might have the hands. He might even have the takedowns. He doesn't. It feels weird for a non-fighter like myself to say this guy doesn't have the heart or the mental side because he's been in the UFC so long. I just mean at the UFC level, at that level, I still don't understand how he beat Li Jingliang that night. If they ever fought again, I got Li Jingliang in that fight. Look, sometimes these things happen. Barella versus Tyler Santos. Sometimes the wrong person wins the fight. If they ever fight again, I got Li Jingliang, man. I mean, it is what it is. So listen, I don't know for a fact that Jeremiah Wells is going to win, but I know for a fact that at plus 170 odds, I'm willing to take my chances, roll the dice, and see if Jeremiah Wells can come out here and beat his second straight established flake in a row. So give me Jeremiah Wells to come out here, and I'm gonna say submit Jake Matthews.
Yeah, man, I like Jeremiah Wells. The regional footage, I've actually I've known about him for a few years now. Even when he was on it, him and Jared were in talks. And I know he comes from Brady and them team. You know, he's boys with them. Daniel Gracie, I believe, is the owner of the gym. So yeah, I know he comes from that team. So yeah, and Philly, I mean, Philly dude's been rarely losing. The only Philly dude I've been lost recently is like Algio, and people from Philly been telling me they don't even claim Algio like that, which is crazy. You know, I was like, damn, y'all don't claim Algio, but
they don't like my boy Billy A.
They said he ain't really from Philly. That's what somebody told me. I was like, damn, really? But yeah, man, these Philly guys, they win a lot. But yeah, Jake, I like how you put that, man, about Jake Matthews, like this potential thing. No, like the potential has already come back down. It's run out. He's been in the UFC for how long now?
Long ass time.
Like since he was like 19, 20 years old. So, I think we know it. Kind of a good comparison with DeCasey. Like this guy, you just have to come at him, man. He can be broken. Even in his wins, like against what was the guy's name? Emil Meek. Like the way he fell apart in that third round, like, and that's against a can. No offense to Emil Meek, but like did beat Pahar, so he's not a can. But you know, in UFC level, like just the way he fell apart in that third round, man, is like was a little. And you know, the Diego Sanchez fight, I know he beat him up, but I was expecting him to come out here and put Diego in the ground, man. Like, you know, I was just like, Jake, you can't finish Diego. Like, I know, you know, a lot of people can finish him, so maybe I'm wrong, but I was expecting a finish out of him that fight, man, and he couldn't deliver. It just seems like he always holds back. You know, the second things get a little shaky, he'll look to play it safe and just lay on top control. I don't ever see the top 15 in this guy's future. I don't. What is he ranked right now? 27. Yeah. I think this is about as good as it's gonna get, man. I think this is Jeremiah Wells' time to shine, and Jeremiah, you know, another one of these guys in his mid-30s. The time is now with him. So I agree, man. I think plus 170 is almost like, how many times has Jake Matthews let you down? I know he did beat Li Jingliang, so on the given day, I guess he is capable of beating someone good. But Li Jingliang also lost to Keita Nakamura too and got finished unconscious. You know, sometimes Lee will do a couple questionable things, man. But I think Jeremiah can come out here, just mix it up, you know, and just try to capitalize on the moments, man. If we can get on top of Jake and, you know, get mount and half guard and all that stuff and make him work and make him realize that this fight isn't going to be easy, I think Jake will slowly start to break, man. So, I mean, we've seen it multiple times. What happened in that Rocco Martin fight in Australia? I mean, like, you know, so I'm going to go with Jeremiah Wells here.
Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got the featured bout. We got Maki Pitolo. He's 13-8, taking on Dusko Todorovic, who is 10-2. And currently, they got Dusko Todorovic minus 155. The comeback on Maki Pitolo, excuse me, is plus 135. I mean, Shaq, Thunder versus Coconut Bombs. This should be one hell of a fight.
Dusko's nickname, Thunder?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Maki Pitolo, I mean, when we criticize him, I'm not going to criticize his hands, his offensive wrestling, how exciting he is, his willingness to fight. I mean, to me, it's more so he's got something I like to call triple S, Sean Soriano syndrome. You know what I mean? Like
Michael Johnson syndrome.
Yeah, Maki Pitolo. I mean, like
Sarah McMahon syndrome.
I ain't got shit to say about Maki Pitolo's hands. I know he's exciting. I know he's Hawaiian. Like he's a good fighter. He's solid. He can mix in takedowns too, man. I mean, he's like, I got nothing bad to say about his skills. To me, it's like I want to know what's going on in that brain of Maki Pitolo. You know what I mean? Like what's going on in that head of his, man. Like there's coconuts in there or something, man. Because I mean, some of this decision making, Shaq, in these fights, like these fights that he'll rock Darren Stewart, like get him wobbling, then just shoot head first and get choked out. He'll look the best he's ever looked against Julian Marquez, dominate him, and then pull one of the most epic stunts of 2021. The Impa fight, he got bullied, and then you see what he does against someone who's about to retire, like Charles Byrd, handles him accordingly. So I don't know, man. It's been a lot of questionable things, but we know he's got some skills. And Dusko Todorovic, he's a very skilled guy, offensively speaking, man. I mean, I love the body work. I love the fighting in the clinch, the dirty boxing. His ground and pound is vicious. He seems like a very smart kid. The issue with Dusko is, I mean, he fights with his hands down and relies on his head movement, and he's got that tall man defense. And on one hand, Maki's team has not only game planned for Dusko Todorovic before, they handed Dusko his first ever L with Puna Haley Soriano. So they know the game plan to come out here. Now, Maki and Puna, two different guys, but at least Maki's in there with the coach, that game plan to beat Dusko successfully, and in there with the guy that knocked him out. So at least he's got the right people around him. They know what to do. They know what to expect. It's just, can you trust Maki to get the job done? Because let me say this about Dusko. When he wins fights, man, I mean, look, he's going to take some shots because he fights with his hands down, but he also puts it on his opponents, man. I mean, like I said, when these guys get up against the fence and they start dirty boxing, that's where Dusko shines. When he mixes in takedowns, when he gets on top of you, that ground and pound is vicious, man. And he's got unorthodox kicks. I like his hands too. My only issue is that Maki Pitolo can crack, and Dusko leaves that chin straight up in the air, backs out of every exchange with that chin, like my boy James Vick used to do. So, you know, I lean Dusko because I think if it's 1-1 going in that third round, that Dusko can make the right decisions to make it happen. But I can't sit here and be confident just because anytime Dusko gets into a firefight, there's always a chance he's going to get caught. Maki Pitolo does have those coconut bombs. So, and Maki Pitolo is no slouch. He just needs to make better decisions in there. Give me Dusko, though.
Yeah, it's a tough fight, man, because, you know, Maki Pitolo is a habitual, just what I like to call a WTF fighter. It's like, dude, like, I think he just runs himself into the ground, honestly. I think he bit of a mental thing, you know. I think that, like, he just goes so hard, and especially if he's wrestling, and he just hits that wall, man, and leaves that neck in there. I mean, James Krause perfectly said it in the last fight in the corner with Marquez. He was like, "You give this kid a reason to quit, and he will." And I mean that's pretty much when he's tired and you put your arms around his neck. I mean, I think he will go to sleep or tap, man. So. Other than that, man, yeah, he's got some good boxing. I don't think it's anything Dusko hasn't seen before. I consider Puna and Lil Barak, what's his name, Greg Rodriguez,
and Michel Pereira.
You know, Michel Pereira is much better strikers. And I think that, look, Dusko was severely overrated. Like, like that's definitely 100%. I mean, he showed it every step. The Contender Series fight was. I don't even know how he got a contract off that. I mean, he pushed the kid in the fence the entire time. Like, he did no outside damage. Like, the kid, the other, what's his name, Teddy Ash, I believe, he was the one doing the outside damage, and Dusko had to press him up to win that fin. But, you know, we excused it, said it was his first fight in Serbia, but when I rewatched it, I was like, I don't know if this guy's that good. The Michelle Pereira fight looked a little funny to me too. Like, I don't know what Michelle had going on. Like Michelle's got a bunch of losses, man. But then the Puna fight got blown out the water. I kind of thought that was a lame effort. Like, I mean, I guess that's how he fights, but I mean, man, you're fighting Puna, bro. Like, you gotta know, like, you gotta get those hands up. And then, I guess his confidence was down. Greg Rodriguez, another big heavy hitter, and I mean, he got beat everywhere. So the difference I have though is just the mental, the heart. I didn't think that, Dusko got knocked out, but I've never seen or gotten signs of a guy that's gonna, do things like what Maki has done, like win the entire fight and then quit right at the end. And I'm gonna call it quitting because this ain't just a UFC thing. This is prior to the UFC too. Like, he fought Dakota Cochran and got choked out. He fought another kid. I know Lionheart was in his corner. What was his name? Cassius or something like that.
Cassius Clay.
Yeah, and I mean,
he
did the same thing. He was winning the entire fight, and I think he got knocked out. Maybe like this guy is a habitual. Like, what about the Callan Potter fight? Go back. What I said before his last fight. If you lose to Callan Potter, man, you don't like. There's nothing else that needs to be said. So I'm going with Dusko Todorovic. Look, it could be ugly. I've been questioning if Dusko's really UFC caliber as well. But I think that, I just think he's willing to give more effort down the stretch. I think he's willing to, just hold on a little bit more, as where Maki down the stretch is gonna be falling apart, man. So I'm gonna go with Dusko to kind of steal the last 2 rounds and get his this will be his second UFC win. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Todorovic.
Now, next up in the welterweight division, before we talk about this main card, everybody do us a favor, smash that like button, please, and subscribe to this channel. We truly appreciate it. Now, first up in the welterweight division for the main card, we got a match between Bryan Barberena. He's 15-8. He's welcoming newcomer Darian Weeks, who's 5-0 to the UFC. Man, I wish Night Train got that fight. I liked it, but it's all good. Currently, they got Bryan Barberena -125. The comeback on Darian Weeks is +105. Like, interesting. I'm actually very surprised because it's like Bryan Barberena, I know that he's seen better days, but he's still on a completely different level than, he's seen a different level than this kid, Darian Weeks. Look, Darian, I mean, look, he's big, he's explosive, he's athletic, he's finished guys on his regional scene. You got to give him credit there. It's just he's only 5-0. He's a baby in this game. He's just a kid. He hasn't seen anything. So, I mean, maybe Darian comes out here, knocks out Barb. Maybe Barb is just completely done. But if that's not the case, man, I think Barb has a little bit too much veteran savvy for this guy. Can kind of show him the ropes a little bit. It's just what you got to look out for is a decline Barb taking on, a young athletic kid with finishing power. But Darian Weeks, like I said, he's got a lot of growing to do. I mean, he was basically supposed to fight on Contender Series. He had to pull out, and now he's getting his UFC debut. So it's like he skipped the audition to find out if he's even on this level yet. And now he's in there with an established guy. So I think Bryan still got enough in the tank to come out here and hand this kid his first L. But if not, then, it might be that time. But give me Bryan Barberena to get it done, man.
It's a tough one, man. I like the line on Weeks when it was like, what, +160, 150, when it was like that. But I see why y'all took the shot. I mean, look, Barb is one of these mini legends of the sport. I mean, like, Barb has had a better run than a lot of people expected that he would. What Barb is, I mean, he's a detriment of a lot of fight of the nights. And fight of the nights, they're fun and all, but they come with the detriment. I mean, how many does he have? He's got like
a lot.
I know Lepre was one. Worley might have been one.
Luke.
I mean, the last one, that's 4. I mean, and even his fights, the Leon fight, like, he takes damage, man. Like, he's been in a lot of.
He dropped Leon.
Yeah, he dropped Leon. He the Randy Brown fight, I was there. He took a lot of damage that night. So yeah, man, I feel like that's really what Barb is right now, man. I do think he's the detriment of a lot of damage in his career, and all those fight of the nights are taking its toll. Look, Weeks seems very green to me, but at the same time, like that last fight was so alarming for Barb, in my opinion. Like for him to lose to Jason Witt, no offense to Jason Witt, tough guy, can wrestle, get the takedowns and all that stuff, but his chin is like the worst. And Barb just looked stuck in the mud. Like he looked like he couldn't even move around the cage. Like it was bad in my opinion that
Barb got dropped.
Like Barb got dropped by that guy. Like even in that third round, like Witt was literally on ice skates all over the place, like tumbling around, and he still like couldn't find the shot. I was like, oh, okay, Barb's done. Like back in his day, I mean, this is talking about a guy who beat Worley, who beat Sage Northcutt, who, you know, had a lot of good performances. The Luque fight, I mean, Vicente was on ice skates multiple times in that fight, man. So I don't know what's going on with Barb. I think it's just a mixture of the damage. And I mean, look, he's got a farm now, man. He's got, you know, a bunch of kids. Like, you know, Barb's made good money. Like, and I think his best days are behind him. I think he's very fortunate he didn't fight Matt Brown. And I think that I'm actually gonna go on the other side though. I think Darian Weeks, you know, I think he's a gamer. Oh, the difference with the 5-0 record, I looked at his record. He's got a bunch of amateur fights, especially in that big amateur organization, IMMAF. You know what I'm talking about? It's like the Russian kid that was talking shit to Cody Durden did that shit. It's like a big amateur, like the highest level amateur. The highest
IMMAF.
Yeah, IMMAF, the highest level amateur you know, circuit that you can get on. He's got a bunch of fights in there.
Oh, that's where that Mokaev.
Yeah, like all them dudes did that. A few guys done that. So yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of experience. So I wouldn't just look into the like he's got 5 fights period. Now he's got fights. So I'm gonna take him for the win here just by being younger, fresher, more athletic, a little stronger. He could get sparked with the left. He's definitely never been hit by a guy, you know, never been hit like how he's gonna get hit on Saturday night. I mean, even though Barb's old, he's still got power. But I think he's just gonna be a little fresher than Barb, just you know, make Barb look old. So I'm gonna take him for a win, but I think it's gonna be a close decision. You know.
Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a match between Brendan Allen, he's 17-4, taking on Chris Curtis, who is 27-8, and currently they got Brendan Allen minus 350. The comeback on Chris Curtis is plus 285. So listen, Chris Curtis had a big upset last month against Haas, and Haas was lighting his ass up. Let's just be honest about what was happening. But we always knew that there was one issue with Haas. He's a great fighter, just doesn't have a chin. And Chris Curtis was able to capitalize. And man, after close to 40 pro fights, finally got his first UFC win. So props to Chris Curtis. Now he's coming back on short notice again. Could you imagine if he comes into the UFC and's got knockout wins over Chris Curtis and Brendan Allen back to back?
Yeah, that would be crazy. I mean, Chris Curtis, you know, he's experienced. He's got good boxing. It's just, you know, seems like in the big fights, he kind of, you know, and he fought UFC level guys. Man, Phil really dropped the ball on that one, man. Like Phil, I mean, but he does have some good hands. I will give him that. I mean, that's what he's known for, right? Is his boxing. Brendan Allen, though, man, I feel like has all the makings of a future top 10 guy, though. I just think that how old is he? Like 25, 6? Like he's already so young and he's already gotten this far. 25 years old. From Louisiana. Now he's at Sanford. He used to train at Rufus Sport. Like this guy is the real deal. I mean, he gave Puna Haley what I like to call a vet lesson. I mean, he stood up with him for 15 minutes and beat him at his own game. So, you know, I think as long as Brendan Allen doesn't stand in front of him and, you know, or get sucked in, Brendan's got to calm down. Brendan's one of his biggest Achilles heels are his emotions. And you know who Chris Curtis's best friend is. And
well, they don't know. Tell them.
It's Sean Strickland is his best friend. And, you know, Brendan and Sean, you know, they haven't been seeing. Well, Sean knocked him out firstly. And, you know, everyone pretty much hates Sean these days. So, you know, she's got to not get sucked in, because Sean will be calling him names during the fight, and he will be saying things to him probably right now in the hotel, so especially at weigh-ins. Like, I mean, the second they lock eyes, it's going to be on. So he's got to be he's got to keep your emotions in check, Brennan. Like, you're not fighting Sean, you're fighting his friend. Because sometimes, I mean, because I think like a big part of the reason why he lost to Strickland, he got knocked out. He was supposed to fight Heinisch, and him and Ian had this big beef, and Ian took another fight, and then with gas to him, and then Brennan was just running his mouth that week, the week he was fighting Strickland, and like you saw how it turned out. He's just got to keep his emotions in check. If he does that, I think he wins this fight. Get him down to the ground, man. He's got nothing for you down there, in my opinion. Even on the feet, I think you can stand with him as well. He's got a better chin than Phil. So I think I gotta go with Brendan Allen. I just think he's got all the makings of a future top 10 guy, and his jiu-jitsu is much better, in my opinion, like a lot better. But Chris Curtis is a serious vet, man, been around, but just don't get sucked into the Strickland business, man. Just leave him alone.
Oh my God, dude. Cause I'm just imagining like both corners, Brendan Allen's corners, saying, circle or pop the jet or whatever. And then Chris Curtis's corner's got Sean Strickland like, hey, Brendan, I fucked your mom or something. Like, dude, like, Brendan, you suck. Like, yeah, oh my God, that could
Strickland will say things
that could
like
totally throw him off his game. So that'd be. I'm just glad it's at the Apex, so we got to hear Strickland in the corner. Like, this is the one of the times I want to hear the corner. But I mean, basically, look, Chris Curtis has paid his dues, man. I mean, look at the guys he fought on his regional scene. He's knows what the ups and downs are like. I mean, he's a big boy. He's got very unorthodox kicks. I mean, you saw that knockout he had on Contender Series. Went back to the, to the I want to say regional scene, but PFL, it's a big promotion. Went outside the UFC, had some ups, had some downs. Now he's back here. I mean, when you talk about paid in full, like my boy Dustin Poirier, I mean, Chris Curtis, he paid his dues, man. So he went out there, knocked out Phil Haas. Now Brendan Allen, look, I think Brendan Allen, I think his stand-up has been catching up, man. I mean, even in that Strickland fight that he lost, I thought he was looking pretty decent, but that last fight against Puna, man, big step in the right direction. Showed the kid, gave a guy older than him a vet lesson. It was great to see, but Brendan's biggest strength is on the mat, man. I mean, when Brendan takes your back, when Brendan gets on top of you, he tends to finish fights. The issue with Brendan back in the day would be that
hit that wall.
He would go so damn hard early trying to get you out of there, and then he'd start flopping to his back. Then guys would get on top of him and capitalize. But I think those days are behind him. Like you said, he's only 25, so he's been paying his dues for a long ass time. And I honestly think, man, I know Chris Curtis has that momentum coming off that big knockout. I know it was an amazing moment to see him go out there and win. I honestly think Brendan Allen's going to come here and run through Chris Curtis. I think he's going to take him down, and I think he's going to finish him in the first round, actually. So give me Brendan Allen to finish Chris Curtis and then get a big fight after that. Now, here we go. Now shit's about to get real, Shaq, because next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a match between Jimmy the Brute Crute. He's 12-2. He's taking on Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill, who is 9-1. And currently, they got Jimmy the Brute Crute -165. The comeback on Jamahal Hill is +145. These are two of my favorite rising contenders in the light heavyweight division. I think both these guys have very bright futures. And they both bring a lot to the table. They bring a little something different to the table. Jimmy Crute, I mean, I think his nickname says it all, the Brute, man. I mean, this guy's not afraid to eat your hardest shot. He's got knockout power of his own. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He can mix in takedowns. He's a pretty well-rounded individual. He's young. He's a kid. He's tough as nails, man. Now, on the downside, he is a bit of a meathead. So with that being said, when I say he can eat your hardest shot, the positive is that it's going to be hard to knock him out. The negative is that he eats too many shots, and this goes to the judges. They're definitely going to take note of that. And against a guy like Hill, who has the kind of volume he has, what stands out about a guy like Jamahal Hill is that it's rare you see a guy with the kind of striking output that he has at 205 pounds. You don't often see that. I mean, he's got the output of a bantamweight, but he can knock dudes out like a light heavyweight. So I've always been very impressed with Jamahal Hill. And also, if you go back to that UFC debut where questions about his ground game. When he got taken down, his get-up game was like a 205-pound Jose Aldo. So I want to see how does that translate against a top 15 guy in Jimmy Crute, because I know Jimmy, he's going to try to bang for a little bit, but if he starts getting touched up, he's going to go to plan B, go out there mixing the takedowns, and that's where this fight gets interesting. I want to know what happens if Crute gets on top of Hill. Based off what I've seen from Hill, is that he can defend takedowns, and if he gets taken down, he can pop back up. That Paul Craig fight is not an indicator of what's going to happen here, because Jimmy Crute is not going to pull guard. And also, I mean, look, Jamahal Hill, he made that rookie mistake in that last fight. He got on top of Paul Craig. He thought, oh, this is it. And no, that's not it, Jamahal. You know what I mean? You saw what happened to Ankaleev. You saw what happened to Kennedy. Jamahal Hill just simply made a tactical mistake. He could have got back up and let him get up. It's not like he got taken down. He followed Paul Craig to the mat. He was emotional. He made a big mistake. Jimmy Crute's not only not going to pull guard, Jimmy Crute's going to actually shoot for takedowns. So that's where the dynamic comes in here on the mat. I mean, we're going to have to see what happens. I'm thinking, based off what I've seen, that Hill can either pop back up or stuff the takedowns. If he does that, I think he's going to light up Jimmy Crute. I think it's going to be a spirited effort. I think it's going to be a great fight. I think both these guys are going to be back in full throttle, man, in full force. I think both these guys have bright futures, but I think Jimmy Crute is slightly too hittable to be standing with a guy like Jamahal Hill. I mean, maybe he subs Jamahal if he gets on top of him. I mean, we'll see. But I from what I've seen, Jamal's got a good get-up game, and I think Jamahal pieces him up with way too much volume and length and fluidity and speed on the feet. So give me Jamahal Hill to win a decision.
Yeah, I think this is, pretty much simple, man. Grappler versus striker. I think, Jimmy... Man, I was a little harsh on him for that last fight with Lionheart, because I did have a bet on him. But, man, Lionheart is top 5, fought for the title. Lionheart's been putting dudes in the ground, very experienced. No shame in losing to Anthony Lionheart Smith at all. He's very well-rounded. Kind of got a lesson in the jab in that fight, and the low kicks. And, Jimmy... Man, well, one thing I did like about that, I saw a guy that even when his leg was hurt, I mean, he was still trying to fight, and I respect that. Jamahal Hill, we know what he's known for: touch 'em up university, touching dudes up, and punching their heads in. I definitely think the ground. We no one really knew what happens if he got to the ground. I know Darko took him down and he popped up, but Darko's not known for taking guys down and subbing them like that. He's just so we got the thing that surprised me in that fight with Craig was how easily Paul set that up. I've seen guys laying Paul's guard for a while, like even Kennedy. They did it for a couple of rounds. Ankaleev, multiple times was in his guard, but I was surprised at how quickly he set that up and how Jamahal kind of looked like he didn't really know what was going on. Now, I think, a lot of that was due to how he was acting the entire fight week. Him and Paul, were going at it. And Paul, people sleep on Paul. Paul is an intense guy, man. Paul ain't no hoe. They always think he's sweet or something. And then, and they end up getting their arm broken. So, I think, man, this is a pivotal fight here, man, because I feel like whoever wins is going to skyrocket, and whoever loses is going to have a long climb back up. But I have to believe Jimmy's got a decent to a big advantage on the ground here, just based. I mean, he fought Paul Craig, and I saw what happened when they were on the mat. So, and I don't like to use the MMA math thing, but it's just the facts. I mean, he's got a better ground game than Jamahal, man. It's just, I mean, look what he did to Lord McCall, man. Use that. I actually thought that was a good performance when I rewatched it. I mean, he used that game plan to a T, did multiple mat returns. He could definitely drag on. It's just Jimmy Crute's one of these guys where, like you were saying, he's kind of a meathead. Every once in a while, he'll do something where it's like the Misha Serkinov fight, where it's like, Jimmy, what the hell are you doing? Where you're literally 2 seconds away from 2 seconds from getting a TKO, and then the next thing you get swept with a Kimura. This is a tough fight, man. I don't think Jimmy Crute has, what's the line? Minus 160, 150, 165. Yeah, I don't know if he's got that much of an edge against Jamahal Hill, but if they're basing that off, I think they're basing that off how quickly Paul Craig set that armbar up. Like it took no time for him to do that. But I also think Jamahal Hill's got a lot to prove this weekend. I mean, he's got to be very hungry. Coming off that, he had so much momentum. So I'll take him for the win, but I wouldn't be shocked if it went the other way, man. Crute can wrestle. He does have good entries. He does. We have not seen Jamahal in too many spots on the mat, especially on his back. We've seen him on top, and we saw how that went. As where Crute's issues are more so just like he needs to relax. He needs to keep his composure in check. So we'll see, but I don't think it should be that line. If I was gonna line it out, I would line Crute the favorite just because he actually beat Paul Craig and he's a little more experienced, but I would line it like minus 125, 130, something like that. But I'm gonna go with Hill for the win. I think he might catch him. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. It's a big fight though.
Now next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Clay Guida, he's 36-21, taking on Leo Santos, who is 18-4. And currently they got Leo Santos minus 180. The comeback on Clay Guida is plus 165. I mean, listen, man, gotta tip your hat to a guy like Clay Guida. I mean, wins over Anthony Pettis, wins over Nate Diaz, RDA, Michael Johnson. I mean, Clay Guida's a legend. He's been involved in some of the best fights of the sport. I mean, he was fighting in the sport when I first started watching when I was like in high school, man. I mean, Guida is a staple, man. Leo Santos is one of these guys. He's actually older than Clay Guida. He's 41 years old. Now, Guida, when I say older, let's just remember Guida turns 40 in the next few days or the next few months. So it's not like Guida's some spring chicken, but Leo Santos is going to be the older man here. But man, Leo Santos has had one of the best quiet runs in the UFC, man. I mean, all this guy does for the most part is win. I mean, the knockout over Kevin Lee, the submission over Rocco Martin, the destruction of Stevie Ray. And a lot of people thought he might have been winning the Grant Dawson fight until he got knocked out with 1 second left in that fight. That was a vicious, brutal, devastating knockout, by the way. So we'll see how he bounces back. Basically, the way I see this fight going, man, is that I've been waiting for the time when Leo finally falls off a cliff. But, with some of these older guys, he doesn't fight that often. He doesn't take too much damage besides his last fight. So maybe he's still somewhat fresh to fight against a fellow guy that is towards the tail end. So basically, I mean, I see Clay Guida pushing forward like he always does, but man, I think that Leo Santos has the length. I think that his hands are very underrated. I think he's got the calf kicks as well. I've even seen Leo Santos go out there and blast double a guy like Kevin Lee, and then when it hits the mat, Leo Santos was actually like a jiu-jitsu legend before he was even in MMA, man. So Leo Santos is a beast on the mat. You've seen Clay Guida get submitted multiple times. So I think the only way Clay Guida wins this fight is, I mean, he's got to do the typical Guida. He's got to push him up against the fence. He's got to get him down to the mat. He's got to completely stifle the jiu-jitsu attack of Leo Santos. I think that's the path to victory for Clay Guida. I'm just not convinced that he gets it. Now, here's the scary part. I'm always worried about a guy like Leo, an older Brazilian, gassing. So if Leo gets off to a good start, but then Guida starts getting those takedowns late second, starts to get it in the third, holds him down the entire third, I'm worried about a Guida decision, a close decision. But I actually think Leo Santos can come out here and finish Clay Guida, touch him up with the hands, get him with an opportunistic submission when Guida shoots. So let me go Leo Santos via either guillotine or rear naked choke submission here.
Yeah, Guida. I mean, Guida's gonna give it his all. He's gonna, put his best effort. I know a lot of people think he beat the Olympian Madsen. It was a close fight. I mean, I was surprised it was unanimous for sure. Leo Santos, like you said, I mean, for the most part, all this dudes win, but he is getting up there in age. You got to be worried about how fatigued, a 41-year-old.
It was split.
Oh, it was split. Okay. 41 years old, Brazilian fighter from Nova União. I mean, sometimes those guys can fatigue fairly quickly. And, his last fight with Grant Dawson was very unfortunate because I actually did think he could have been up 2 rounds in that fight. And, he got tired, man. Even in that fight before that, though, was kind of a sign against, I don't even know that
Bogatov.
Bogatov. that was kind of a sign that kind of let me know, okay, Leo, his best days are behind him. Like I thought in the past, he would have knocked that dude out, but not that he was struggling, but it just wasn't the typical Leo performance, man. So, the good thing he's got going for him in this fight is jiu-jitsu, man. Clay Guida has been submitted, I don't know how many times, but I know it's over 10. I mean, it's a lot of times he's been submitted, man. So I think that if Leo can, get around to his back or something like that, I think it's game set match. I think he could sub Guida fairly quick, man. And Guida, like I said, will tap. It's just a matter of he can't make this a half, 50-50 fight of heart. You know what I'm saying? Not that Leo doesn't have heart. It's just Guida. That's the only way Guida can win. If Leo's fatigued, tired, and now it becomes a hustle type of fight where Guida is gonna shine in that. So, I got to go with Leo too, just because I'm almost positive if he can get onto his back, he will submit him. And I think it's like, I'm almost positive. Like, I'm sure if he gets on his back, he's gonna get submitted. So I'm gonna go with Leo to get the submission win. But it could be, from a betting side of things, man. What's the line?
-190, Leo.
Yeah, I don't know if you can be paying -190.
-180.
I mean, maybe not too bad, but he is 41 years old, man.
If he subs him in the first, they won't look
too bad. If he subs him, but if he doesn't, then it's like, oh boy.
If it becomes one of those Guida fights,
yeah,
you know which ones I'm talking about.
Co-main
event of the evening in the lightweight division. We got, this fight is unbelievable. We got two rising contenders, Rafael Fiziev, he's 10-1, taking on Brad Riddell, who is also 10-1. Currently, they got Rafael Fiziev -120, and the comeback on Brad Riddell is +105. So Shaq, both incredible strikers, but very different styles of striking. You got that fast twitch, that speed, that explosiveness of Fiziev, and then Riddell's like a sniper out there. He's opportunistic, he's gritty, he's durable. Hell of a fight, man. How do you handicap this one?
Man, I've been very impressed with both for a while. But man, Riddell, in my opinion, man, is like, he's one of these guys. I don't really hear him getting talked that much, and maybe he's not like a legit threat to the title, but I picked him in his fight against Drew Dober, man, and it didn't surprise me.
Picked him versus Gregor too.
Yeah, like I just think this guy's got very good fight IQ. I think this guy's got like just a very he just strikes me as very game. Now Fiziev is a terror, especially early on. He's gonna be more explosive than Gregor. He's gonna hit a little harder, not Gregor, but then Brad Riddell. He's gonna be a little more explosive, be a little more powerful. Then my issue with Fiziev is the offense is great, but I see a guy that admires his work a little bit too much, and I feel like also he hasn't been fighting. Like when Bobby Green stood up to him a little bit in that third round, we kind of saw things turn a little bit. Like the Casey was just trying to survive. Like Moicano, we know his weakness. You could catch Moicano early on. That's always been one of his problems, and props to him, he did that. But I feel like the second he fights someone that's engaged for 3 rounds, I think things could go a little bit different for Fiziev. And I think this is the matchup, man. I think Brad Riddell does not get enough credit, man. Look, we got 2 serious kickboxers here. I know Fiziev made a serious name for him in kickboxing, but in terms of just like name value in the kickboxing, man, like Brad Riddell beat some like serious dudes in kickboxing, man. Just type
Sean Wayne Parr, right?
Just go type his name in on YouTube, man. Like if anybody could deal with this, that Fiziev has faced up to this part, is Brad Riddell. He just gotta make sure he doesn't fall like too far behind, man, because like I said, Fiziev is kind of hell on wheels, especially in that first round, man. But I think that I think he can do it, man. He's gonna have to pull out the best performance of his career, but this guy just has a way of like just being game, man, and capitalizing on his opportunities. I was really impressed when he beat that Brazilian kid, Alex Silva, man. So I'm going to go with Riddell for the upset. It could go the other way, 100%. Fiziev is a terror, but I think Fiziev just admires his work too much. Like he especially as the fight progresses, like I just feel like he just starts like not respecting his opponent's power a little bit, and I feel like here's the fight where he pays the price for that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. This is such a good fight. It's a tough one to call, and I really feel like this is one of those fights where they fight 10 times, and it's going to be a different result every single time. It's about who's on the night, who goes out there, who executes, and it's tough because Brad Riddell, I mean, everything you said about both guys is correct, man. I mean, Brad Riddell, obviously the striking is on point. We know that. I mean, look at his background, but he's able to mix in takedowns. I mean, he took down Drew Dober 5 times in that fight. That is very, very impressive. He's able to mix things up. He's also, you know, got the intangibles. He's durable. He's a warrior. He's willing to, you remember when shit got real between him and Malarkey? Yeah, I mean, this guy can go out there and be in a dogfight. So that's a great quality. But man, something about Fiziev, especially those first 2 rounds, man. I mean, he is hell on wheels. This guy is so damn fast. He's so explosive. He's so accurate. His technique is on point both in offense and defense. And while he definitely slowed down in that Bobby Green fight, I mean, I can't sit here and deny that. If you actually look at the numbers, though, I mean, the guy's still throwing at a high clip in the 3rd round. So it's not like, you know, I mean, he still threw 79 strikes in round 3, which is more than he threw in round 1, by the way. So it's not like he's out here and his output completely diminishes. It's just that, you know, he starts eating a lot more shots as well. The defense starts to get worse, but the output's going to be there the entire fight. It's just obviously you don't want to start eating these Brad Riddell shots. I don't know. I kind of think that Fiziev gets off to that big lead, wins the first 2 rounds. I mean, wins that first round, slightly edges that 2nd round. People are going to think Riddell won it. Some people are going to think Fiziev won it. Riddell goes out there, wins that 3rd round. It's a close-ass decision. I'm going to say Rafael Fiziev just barely gets past Brad Riddell, but I mean, hell of a fight, could go either way. But yeah, let me go Fiziev by just landing the more impactful shots, and hopefully doesn't fall apart down the stretch. That's another big deal. Now, main event of the evening in the bantamweight division, we got a match between Rob Font, he's 19-4, taking on the legend Jose Aldo, who is 30-7. And currently, they got Rob Font -140. The comeback on Jose Aldo is +125. So, Shaq, I mean, look, Rob Font, he's been looking better than he's ever looked. He's got a dynamic jab. Just went 5 rounds with former bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt. But Jose Aldo, I mean, this guy was defending belts back when we were in high school, and he's still at the top of the heap 10+ years later. I mean, talk about a guy who, I mean, how long has it really been? I mean, this guy has been a champ since 2009, Shaq. 2009, he's been fighting at the highest level, and he's still fighting at the high. He's still in the mix in 2021, over 10 years later. So, I mean, the admiration I have for a guy like Jose Aldo, and, you know, people were questioning if he was done there for a little bit, man. And I mean, it seems like he keeps picking himself back up. He keeps finding new ways. I mean, after that Alexander Volkanovski fight, drops down to bantamweight, his first fight there, he didn't get the decision, but I thought he still performed well against Marlon Moraes. Next fight against Peter Yan, I know a lot of people take the first round off Peter Yan, but Jose took the 2nd round off Peter Yan. And then, you know, after a devastating loss, goes out there, beats 2 legit top 10 contenders in Marlon Vera, Pedro Munoz. And the thing I liked about the Munoz fight was that output was the highest output he's ever landed in his entire mixed martial arts career. Because the criticism for Aldo has always been those first 2 rounds, he's hell on wheels, but man, he tends to slow down a bit. And it's not because he's not out here running his miles. It's because the guy's so goddamn explosive that it's only by default that he's going to slow down. But he actually threw more in round 3 than he did in round 2 and round 1 of the Munoz fight. So, and I know Munoz showed him a lot of respect. I know Munoz asked for an autograph in the center of the octagon, kind of like Moicano did. And I know Rob Font's not going to do that, but it's a step in the right direction to see Jose Aldo have a 30-27 clean performance like that. This is a 5-round fight. I think it should be great. Shaq, I just don't think it's as simple as, oh, Aldo, you know, all Rob Font has to do is survive early and then just take over late, and Aldo's going to fall apart. I'm not sure if it's going to be like that here, but I mean, you do have to look out for that incredible jab of Rob Font, the straight 2 down the pipe. You know, he's got some kicks and some jiu-jitsu too, but it's really the 1-2 that you got to look out for most. I think that Jose Aldo's got more weapons. I think his body work is on point. I think his leg kicks are there too. I know he's got a reputation for not throwing them as much as he used to. He threw them against Pedro Munoz. He even threw them against Peter Yan as well. He's got jiu-jitsu as well. I think this is an amazing fight. I know why people are taking Font, but I think Jose can sneak through 3 of these rounds, come out here, win this decision, and show he's still relevant at the top 5 of this new division for him. So I love Rob Font. He's been doing his thing. I think he'll be back. Give me Jose Aldo to win 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, Jose's been looking good these last 2 fights. But man, I like Rob Font, man. I feel like in the past I was kind of saying this guy, chokes in big fights. Like when he fought Pedro, like when he fought a Sun Sao and Lineker, things like that. So he kind of, was struggling a little bit. But man, he had a big break before, because I bet him against Moraes. But there was like a big layoff before that, if I'm not mistaken. Ricky's son, a year layoff. And man, when the interviews I was seeing before the Moraes fight, I almost was saying to myself, this dude seems like a completely different person, man. Like, I don't know what was going on in that year. Oh yeah, he tore his ACL in that Ricky Simon fight. But I was just mentally, the way he was sounding, because Rob Font to me in the past has always kind of been a little bit of a head case. Like, but man, he sounded much more mature. He sounded like, like I said, a completely different person. The performance, pretty much proved that. I mean, he was the underdog to Marlon Moraes, and he came out there and knocked him out in the first round. The Cody Garbrandt fight, I mean, complete domination as far as I'm concerned. So I think this is 100% the best Rob Font. And he's turning corners. We used to say he couldn't win main events. He couldn't win these high profile fights against these Brazilians. Now, look, I think Jose Aldo's back, but look, I love Jose Aldo, man, but I think it's a little bit of a stretch. Look, he beat Chito Vera. Chito Vera's a good win, top 10 guy, 100%, but like he's not at that top upper echelon level yet. He beat Pedro Munoz. Like, Pedro Munoz couldn't even beat Frankie Edgar. Like,
could be Rob Font though.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, but like, things happen, things change, and Pedro Munoz on the decline and Rob Font's on the, the up. And Pedro Munoz, like, he ain't been looking too good these days, man. So I think that
Cruz is about to beat him.
Yeah, like he's gonna be swinging and missing, bro. Look, if we're gonna pick, that's why Frankie wanted to fight Pedro Munoz. He was like, if I'm gonna be any top 5 guy, it's gonna be him. Like, you know what I'm saying? The most slower, uncoordinated guy in the division, man. So I don't want to say they're circumstantials, but I think Jose is just better than those guys, man. When I think about Rob Font talent-wise, I'm not so sure. I think Rob Font, if he's at his best, man, that jab, I mean, that's one of the more stiffer jabs I've actually come across, man. And I mean, that thing is very accurate. And once it's just sticking you in the face over and over like that, man, that messes up your breathing. I think that could, start to, make Jose kind of tire out a little bit, man. I feel like even Vera and Munoz showed him too much respect. I just don't get that just from Rob Font right now, man. I think that team is starting to slowly become his team, man. I feel like this is the best he's ever been, man, and he sounds very good, man. So I'm gonna take him for the win here, man. I actually think I love Jose, man, but I think I think Rob Font has all the makings for a possible future title challenger, man. I think he's got the size. I mean, he's got to be one of the bigger bantamweights in that division. His boxing is really, really good. Like, I've been seeing a lot of names mentioned as top boxers, and they've been implying that they're better boxers than Rob Font, and I think it's a joke. So, like,
Dustin Poirier wasn't on that list.
Like, you mean to tell me that kid's a better boxer than Rob Font? Oh my God! Okay, well, but
they don't know who you're talking about.
They know who I'm talking about. I mean,
we love that kid too, though.
No, that kid's good, but better than Rob Font? Like, come on, bro. Like, That's just that's misleading. Like that's not right. But I think Rob Font shocks a lot of people this weekend, man. I think this is the most confident he's ever been. I think he comes out here and actually stops Jose Aldo. Kind of down the stretch, I think the jab just is going to be too much for him. I think he's going to be on the back foot a little bit. Like I think Rob Font has the feint capabilities. I don't want to put it on the level of like Volkanovski level feints, but I think he can, do something similar, man. So I'm going to go with him to get this win, man. The biggest win of his career.
All right, so we're on opposite sides for the main event. This should be great. So before we talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch, everybody do us a huge favor and smash that like button. We truly appreciate it. Subscribe to Half the Battle. So Shaq, what is the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 44?
My fight to watch is going to be the light heavyweights, man. Jimmy Crute versus Jamahal Hill. I think it's a big fight. I think the winner is about to spring up a little bit, and the loser's gonna have some work to do, man. So I think that's the fight to watch. Two big dudes, a lot of beef. So I'm going with that fight.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Crute versus Hill. I'm gonna be tuning in for that. But for me, my fight to watch is Maki Pitolo versus Dusko Todorovic. Maki, win, lose, or draw, this guy is always involved in an exciting fight. And I feel like I can say the same thing for Dusko. And then you mix in the fact that both these guys' backs are up against the wall. Both these guys are hungry. Both these guys desperately need a victory. Maki Pitolo versus Dusko Todorovic is my fight to watch. Now, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC Vegas 44?
My fighter to watch is going to be, it's a good question. I'm going to go with Jeremiah Wells, man. I want to see how he bounces back after that surprising UFC debut win. And if he comes out here, beats Worley and Jake back to back, I mean, he's got a big fight on his horizons, has to be. And I want to see how he lives up. A lot of times these guys have these great debuts and they can't live up to it in the second one, man. So I want to see how he performs. So he's my fighter to watch.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see how he performs as well. But for me, my fighter to watch is Manel Kape. I mean, look, I'm telling y'all right now, when I watch the tape on this guy, I see so much potential. I really think that this guy is supremely talented. He's got nasty hands. His speed is on a different level. It's just about him deciding that he wants to go out there and destroy people and get highlight reel knockouts and not just sit back and be cocky. And if this guy puts it together, I am telling you right now, he will fight for the UFC flyweight title before it's all said and done. So Manel Kape is my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going down Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. They can follow you at MMA Genius 05. They can follow me at Best Fight Picks. Everybody, thank you so much. Smash that like button. We truly appreciate it. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. We'll be back next week for, I believe it's already time for Dustin Poirier versus Charles do Bronx Oliveira, the fight of the year for the lightweight belt. That's going down next week. So make sure y'all keep it tapped in with us here at Half the Battle. We'll be back for that and the last card after that. So it's going to be a lot of exciting fights to talk about. Thank you all so much. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.